Hello and welcome to CJC Adventures. Carl here, and welcome to part 3 of Tipton Past and Present. I'm going to take a look at one of the estates in Tipton. It's a very famous estate. It's known all over the Black Country, and you might say it's well known for just normal people, normal folk getting on like any other state should be. We're going to take a look at Ocker Hill, along with the Lost City Estate. It's otherwise known as the Moat Farm Estate, but the Moat Farm Estate, it's not called that. Officially it is. It's always known as the Lost City, because if you walk around the Lost City Estate, you won't become lost, but apparently there's one way in and one way out. I don't know whether that's quite true, but that's why it's called the Lost City. We're also going to take a look around the Toll End area, which is just further up from the Lost City and Ocker Hill areas. So let's go and take a look and see what we can find, and see what it looks like now to what it looked like then, and so on. So let's go. Now the first place that we come to is a pub by the name of the Three Horseshoes. It was on the site originally another pub by the same name. It was knocked down and it was replaced by this pub further up the way. But it's known locally as the Horseshoes, or locally as the Horseshoes if you speak Black Country language. Now the pub itself has a lot of history. It's known as just a local pub for the people of the Lost City and Ocker Hill areas, and anybody else what was passing who fancied a drink, or maybe just a chat to some of the locals. But known as the Horseshoes. Let's go and take a look at what it looks like today. Now, with great pleasure, I like to say that the Three Horseshoes, or the Horseshoes, is still here in Tipton in the Lost City Estate. It's still standing. It was at one point named the Gold Mine. I don't know why. There's not a gold mine anywhere in the vicinity of this area, or any area really in the Black Country. But this, yes, is the Three Horseshoes, known locally as the Three Horseshoes. Glad that it's still here. Proper traditional pub. You can tell by the sign there, known as the Three Horseshoes. Now, one thing about this area that it's known for is the street names: north, east, south and west. And if you don't know your way around those sort of north, east, south and west, then you may become lost, as in the name the Lost City. Just a little bit of information for you there if you do decide to come to this estate. Now the next place we come to is St Mark's Church, Ocker Hill. Now this picture was taken roughly around about the 1960s. This is the inside of the church, and basically it cost around about £2,500 when the church itself was originally built. Now, as churches go, you will find that nothing changes in a church. Everything pretty much stays as it is, as it was, and as it always will be, as long as the church is still there. Now, it looks like this today. I've been in probably over a dozen times. It's not open today, but we can go and take a look at what the outside looks like now, today. So let's go and have a look. Now this is the church today, St Mark's Church, Ocker Hill, on the corner of Ocker Hill Road and St Mark's Road. It's still here, it's still in service, it still looks the same now as it did all those years ago when it was built. It's nice that things are still here, isn't it, you know, when you look at especially churches. So yeah, St Mark's Church. Very nice building. mostly blue brick as well. Now the next place we come to, just off Ocker Hill Island, is the Crown and Cushion pub. You can see there on the right. Now that pub was there up until about the early 2000s, and if you look to your left you see what looks like a little shack. That was actually a shop, and it was there for quite some time. It was there years. I do remember it very well. And the Crown and Cushion, it was a very salute pub. It was quite comfortable by all accounts. I never went in there, to be honest. I remember it well. It was painted a red, like a red colour. Never really changed its appearance. You see that building right by it, that actually survived after the pub was gone for a few years. I don't know whether they couldn't knock it down because it was a listed building. But we'll take a look. Let's go and take a look, see what it looks like today. Now today things do look a little bit different. The Crown and Cushion is no longer there. It's been replaced by a care home, that white building you see there, and the shop you saw on the picture on the left, you just replaced by nothing, just green railings. So that was a Crown and Cushion. Now in the next location we see, just off Gospel Oak Road, you can still see the Crown and Cushion in the distance, and you can see the Ocker Hill cooling towers. And of course that's the primary school, Ocker Hill Primary School. And I think it was roughly about the 1960s. It really did dominate the skyline of Tipton and, you know, surrounding areas, the cooling towers. Let's have a look what it looks like today. Well, this is the sort of view you get today. You can sort of make it out. The cooling towers are long gone now. That skyline that was once famous around these parts was blown up. I think around about the 80s. But of course the school is still there. It's been done up a bit, but it is still the same building. Now the next place we come to is the Jolly Collier pub. Originally on the way to Wednesbury, just off Ocker Hill Highland. It stood here for many years before it was knocked down, and this is what it was replaced with. You can see a good old-fashioned normal pub, very full of life and entertainment and locals. But we'll see what it looks like today. Now today, this is the Jolly Collier. It is in a bit of a state. It's been like this for a few years now. They actually closed it down, and I don't know why they closed it down, because it was a pretty, well, it always seemed pretty busy. I don't know why, the reason was why it was closed down. It stood empty, but looking at it, it looks as though it's going to be turned into something else. I don't actually know what, but only time will tell. A sad sight for the Jolly Collier. Now the next street we come to is Spring Street, Ocker Hill. And take a note of those houses that you see on the left, along with the cars. That was roughly taken about the 1960s, this photo dates back from. You take a look at the backgrounds. Well, Spring Street is only one way in, and you can't go back up. It's a one-way street. Let's take a look at what it looks like today. Now this is Spring Street today. It's still a one-way street. It still looks the same really, and as I say around here, on a bonk, which means a hill or a high road. But this is Spring Street. The view's still similar, isn't it? But those houses are, the houses are no longer there. Now the next location we come to is the Wagon and Horses, otherwise known locally as the Wagon and Horses, or just the Wagon. Now the pub itself, at the time, as seen here, was an M&B pub. Always has been a well-used sort of place, and we're going to take a look at what it looks like today, so let's go and see. Now this is the pub as it stands today, the Wagon and Horses, or Wagon and Osses, and I think over the years it's had pretty much a bit of a facelift. It's not changed a lot really. I think it used to be black and white, it's now like an orange and white. Now for those of you who are into football, I do like football, you'll remember a player named Steve Bull. Now Steve Bull notably played for Tipton Town, he played for West Bromwich Albion and more notably Wolverhampton Wanderers, scoring over 300 career goals. He also played for England and scored quite a few times, and he was actually born on this estate, the Lost City estate. A little bit of information for you there. And he actually come from here along with a lot of his family. We now head back to the 6th of October 1969 and we take a look at a pub which some might remember, some might not. It was originally called the Lost City, but for whatever reason over the years they changed it to the Drayton. Now a lot of people didn't like the name, they still called it the Lost City Pub or the Lost City, and sadly it's lost its charm, if you like. Whether it all found its charm, who knows. But originally it will always be known as the Lost City Pub. And we're going to take a look at what it looks like today. Now the Lost City Pub, otherwise known as the Drayton, stood just here on Coronation Road. It looks a lot different now. The pub was demolished in around 1980. You wouldn't actually think there was a pub here now. Looks so different. Now the next place we come to is Ocker Hill Post Office. Now looking at the way the windows are, they don't have windows like that now, so maybe things have changed, maybe they haven't. Let's go and take a look. Now this is what it looks like today. It's not a post office anymore, it's just a convenience. Pretty much changed the way it was. All the brickwork is all the same. It's just not been a post office for a very long time now. At least it's a shop. That's the main thing. The Dewdrop Inn, known for being pretty much in between all industrial units. A very old pub, very traditional, known for dart playing and pigeon flyers. I used to say there in a lot of pubs, Derby Ales or whatever ale company or brewery will be running the pub. But this is a Dewdrop Inn. Let's go and take a look what it looks like now. I am pleased to say that the pub itself still stands. It doesn't look much different. It's had a bit of a paint job over the years and a few changed signs and things like that, but still called the Dewdrop. I've been in there a few times. It's only a small place, but a very traditional pub, and it's great that it's still here. It's a nice sight to see, isn't it, really, when you see a pub that's still thriving these days. Now another pub which hasn't changed since it was built, to be honest, except for signage and paintwork. So we'll just look at it as it is today, because it's always looked like this, which is the King's Arms, also here in Toll End. Now the King's Arms, yes, it's a very good, thriving Marston's pub. It does food, it's always done food. I used to drink here and I got some good memories here, so I'd just like to show you this, the King's Arms as it is now and basically how it's always been. Now during the Second World War, Toll End was actually bombed quite severe, just on the corner of Horsley Road. As you can see here, the destruction to the building is quite severe. That building was actually knocked down. Now, over the years, it was actually known as the Comedian Pub. It was known by a lot of things before that and after. It had a few names. It didn't do really that well. But let's have a look at the site of, as you can see here, it's quite severe. So let's take a look at what it looks like today. As it looks today, the houses are still there. The pub has been knocked down and replaced by a new one, and as I mentioned, it's had quite a few names over the years. It's actually a day nursery now, children's day nursery called Kangaroo. Strange name, isn't it really? But yeah, this is where the bombing took place during the Second World War. Now here we take a look at the MEB offices. Now the MEB of course was notorious and was electric company and so on, and there was some in Tipton here in Toll End, and pretty much not much has changed. Let's go and take a look at what it looks like today. Now this is the old MEB building. I do believe it's a different building now, because it does look smaller and it looks farther back. But I might be wrong on that, it does look the same, doesn't it? But these trees, if you take a look at the trees, they were once small, like every tree is, and obviously they've grown up now. But this is the view we get today, along Toll End. This is actually the offices to the National Grid at the moment. I think there's been one or two things. I think Eon and other companies have owned this, but at the time it was MEB. It does look the same building, doesn't it? Now the pub you see here is the Old Crown, which was just next door virtually to the old MEB offices. Yeah, it was a pretty good pub. It had an upstairs, it was pretty large, very stable, as you can see here. Up until recently, it was still there, so let's take a look and see if it is still there and what it looks like now. Welcome to the Old Crown, no longer here of course. You can still see the wall there on the right hand side, just by the railings. I do remember it was just, by all accounts, it was closed for a good many years. I don't think it was ever used for much, and it was demolished and replaced by the houses you see today. Never mind. The next location we see is Bridge Street, just off Ocker Hill. Now you can see the cooling towers and you can see that building there, that was the Moulder's Arms. That's one what probably no one will remember. But over it you can see the old MEB offices, what we've just seen. Let's take a look at what it looks like today. Now, it is very different to the way it once looked, where the MEB offices are. You can pinpoint it by just looking at the background and seeing that building just there. So yeah, it does look very different these days, doesn't it? And this is the actual view we get of the Ocker Hill cooling towers and along Powys Avenue. Take a note of those houses right on the far left and the shop next to it. And we're going to take a look at one of the longest roads, if not the longest road in Tipton, Powys Avenue, and what it looks like today. Well, the shop's still there, same building, obviously different owners, been done up a few times, and the houses on the left are still there. There's a few bungalows been added. Surprising, isn't it, what time does to any town, really. Not much looks much different, does it really? It looks a bit more compact, whereas before it looked a bit open. Now take a look at the Harrier pub. Now the Harrier pub, known for sort of setting up the Tipton Harriers team, and darts matches went on here and so forth. And it's in Powys Avenue, you know, it's been there quite some time. I'm going to take a look at what it looks like now. Well, these days it's now known as the Harrier. No, not quite. It's known as the Tiger Tavern. Now the Tiger Tavern, why it's called the Tiger Tavern, I have no idea. I don't think anyone does. But it will always be known as the Harrier. And it hasn't changed much except for the names. Still a busy pub, still working well. Nice to know. Jubilee Park, as it once was and still is today. Quite a big park. It's one of two parks in Tipton, the other one being Victoria, this one being Jubilee, for obvious reasons of course. Let's go and take a look at what it looks like today. Jubilee Park as it is today. Not so much fencing today as there once was. There used to be fencing all around the pathways. That was taken out at some point in the past, but still a park. Chris Tarrant actually came here. I think it was about the late 70s, 80s. He was opening something. I think it was a carnival at the time. And that's going to do it today on CJC Adventures. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and please subscribe. Click on the subscribe icon, click on the bell and you'll be notified when each video on the channel is uploaded. If you've already done all that, thank you very much. For those of you who have done all that, it really means a lot. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you again next time on CJC Adventures.